At 1:23 on April 26, 1986, Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant near Prypiat was preparing for a late-night turbine generator safety test. The RBMK-1000 reactor, graphite-moderated and water-cooled, had a known positive void coefficient and control rod design quirks that made low-power tests unusually hazardous. Deputy Chief Engineer Anatoly Dyatlov supervised the operation while Plant Director Viktor Bryukhanov faced pressure to keep to schedules amid Soviet secrecy and bureaucracy. Operators ran the test in dim corridors with anxious crews, while the nearby city of Prypiat, home to plant workers and their families, slept just a few kilometers away, leaving human lives and urban infrastructure exposed to a ticking, grotesque risk. In the control room, the night crew prepared for a safety test, lowering Reactor 4's power to a dangerously low, sickly level. Operators led by Shift Supervisor Alexander Akimov and Senior Reactor Engineer Leonid Toptunov followed orders from Deputy Chief Engineer Anatoly Dyatlov as Xenon 135 built up and choked the core's reactivity. Power unexpectedly plunged to about 30 megawatts, and the crew withdrew nearly all the control rods, leaving only a handful to sustain the reactor. To keep the test on schedule, they disabled automatic protections and bypassed interlocks, even cutting the emergency core cooling system, deliberate violations of procedure that turned caution into recklessness. Maybe clicking subscribe would have steadied the gauges. The RBMK's positive void coefficient and the control rod design, with graphite displacers and graphite tips, made the core unstable at low power. Conflicting, unreliable instrumentation, frozen gauges, and tense voices hit a reactor that was no longer normal, now primed for catastrophe. At 1:23 on April 26, 1986, a violent steam explosion tore through Reactor 4, ripping off the reactor lid and hurling burning graphite into the night. A screaming graphite fire fed a radioactive plume that streamed across northern Ukraine and into Belarus. 2 plant workers were killed outright, and dozens more were fatally irradiated. Firefighters who raced into the inferno, men like Vasily Ignatenko and Vladimir Pravik, absorbed lethal doses while choking on radioactive ash. Chaos reigned. Alarms blared, burning debris fell, and orders became garbled as operators and managers, including Anatoly Dyatlov and Plant Director Viktor Bryukhanov, grappled with the grotesque wreckage and failing instrumentation. Prypiat was not evacuated until the morning of April 27th, after Soviet authorities delayed and downplayed the incident. The world only learned when radiation alarms tripped at Forsmark, Sweden, forcing Moscow to admit a catastrophic release and opening the disaster to intense international scrutiny. The morning after the blast, the scale of contamination became undeniable. Soviet military engineers, plant specialists, firefighters, and sappers descended on Chernobyl. Helicopters dropped sand, lead, boron, and dolomite onto the burning graphite, while crews sprayed water and foam. Workers in respirators scooped radioactive debris with shovels and gloved hands. Thousands of liquidators, soldiers, miners, and engineers, roughly 600,000, labored under brutal radiation to remove fuel, extinguish fires, and shore up Units 3 and 2 to prevent a second steam or graphite explosion. Personal stories, like Alexander Akimov refusing to abandon the control room and firefighters such as Vasily Ignatenko choking on ash, turned technical tasks into a grisly fight for survival. At the same time, investigators opened probes that would eventually lead to charges against senior staff, including Anatoly Dyatlov and Viktor Bryukhanov, creating political pressure that collided with a desperate technical effort to stop the spreading radioactive nightmare. From that crucible came a frantic, costly effort to contain the disaster at Chernobyl's Reactor 4. Helicopters repeatedly dumped sand, lead, boron, and dolomite onto the searing, smoking core, while remotely operated machines failed within minutes under lethal radiation. When the robots could not survive, crews of liquidators waded into charred, radioactive ruins in protective suits, scooping glowing debris by hand. Engineers poured concrete and bolted steel to build the hastily erected sarcophagus, completed in November 1986. That brittle temporary seal stopped the immediate outflow of radiation but came at an enormous human and environmental cost and became the focal point for accountability. After the blast, Prypiat was evacuated on April 27, 1986, and left permanently abandoned. The 30-kilometer exclusion zone still lies ashen. Decades of health studies and disputed casualty tallies trace the poison toll on an estimated 600,000 cleanup workers, known as liquidators, and other survivors. In 2016, a new safe confinement structure sealed Reactor 4, allowing safer dismantling and containment work. Chernobyl's searing legacy calls for stricter nuclear safety, greater public transparency, ecological recovery, and active cultural remembrance. Will we finally heed that warning?